Welcome, reanimated fans, to this week's podcast. Here with I'm HA Conrad, here with my intrepid co-host, as always, Stuart Tiffin. Hello, Stuart.
G'day, HA. How's it going?
Great. So we took just a weekend hiatus, and Stuart's going to talk a little bit about why. But he was off doing fun, gamery, nerdy things, which we always like to hear about. But we're going to talk about episode 3 of, as I like to call it, Daryl and Carol. Before we get to that, just a few little tidbits and trailers, actually quite a few trailers. But
Hmm.
very excitingly, the Silo season 2 trailer has come out, and it's premiering in mid-November, and it looks pretty amazing. We've been excited about this since we finished watching season 1. What did you think about it, Stuart?
I've been excited about this since I read
Oh
the
yeah,
book,
totally.
But yeah, this trailer looks like it's showing things exactly kind of like what I wanted to see. I can't wait for her to explore what she's going to explore. Let's put it that
Yes.
way.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil, but I'm also curious, how they sometimes take creative license with certain things to condense and
Yeah,
kind of move the story along. But I was really a fan of what they did in the first season, though that stayed fairly true to the
pretty
first book.
close. Pretty. I mean,
Uh,
I think they had some license with some characters were combined and doing different
right.
things. But yeah, just in this trailer, some of those aerial effects shots that they're doing paint a really compelling picture that's pretty dire about, the outside world. So it's worth a look if you're familiar with the story, and if you're not, just watch it and get excited because it's going to be out here pretty quickly.
Yep. So definitely take a look at that. Also another trailer that came out, werewolves, and this one looks very actiony.
Uh-huh. This
And
I looked at this. This is a Frank Grillo movie, and he only does
yeah.
action films. And
Mhm.
it this is like like The Purge meets werewolves, kind of. It feels like.
That's what
Uh,
it feels like. I also was very excited to see that Lou Diamond Phillips was in this. So I'm really excited about that.
yeah.
I know he's fantastic. But pretty it looks quite action packed. I also am very excited that Lou Diamond Phillips is playing the head of the CDC. So that's, I don't know why I'm so excited about that, but I am.
The more and more werewolf stuff that seems to be on right now, it seems like this is their moment for sure.
Oh, we go through cycles with
Yeah.
different monsters, and now it's the werewolf
I just
piece.
do think they're the hardest, one of the most difficult animal or creatures to do in a way that's believable. Like if they do go with purely practical effects, they're often kind of wooden, like in the
Mhm.
Kit Harington film.
Yep.
And there's going to be a lot of werewolves in this. And while they showed some really cool transformation scenes in this trailer, there's also some big kind of wooden looking monsters in this trailer too. So we'll
Well, I
see.
always think I think that they're hard also because in terms of monsters, the transformation piece is hard to show well. And I do think that's why some people go a little bit more camp with it. But like even American Werewolf in London, although that's one of the definitely number one, no, I don't ever want to turn into a werewolf kind of a scenes.
Yeah.
It is campy. And even when they do, like, they don't ever fully show the werewolf, and it looks just like this big, weird, like, strange bear. Like, they show it very quickly in quick edits at the end. And even in the, like, later films that we've seen, they kind of use, CGI to some good effect. I don't know.
Hmm.
You're right. Like it's a hard thing to show well, um, and not go towards sort of that campy, um, way, sort of that into the campy camp, I guess is the best way
Campy
to,
camp. Yeah, I just think
um,
it's a probably a real difficult balance between do we have a budget to do pure CGI
right.
werewolves, which could be cool, or do we not have that budget? We have to do practical werewolves, which have us like not as cool as xenomorphs most of the time, I would say.
Right.
So yeah, they should
I
probably
mean,
be taking notes from each other.
I'm trying to think of like, I mean, I guess Underworld kind of did them.
That's a good point. I should rewatch
okay,
some Underworld. I haven't seen that in a while.
but they were still like there was, definitely when they did some of the practical makeup and effects, they still didn't look quite, I don't know. I mean, the transformations were pretty cool and scary and good.
The
Although
hybrid werewolf was always pretty
yeah,
cool.
I thought that was probably the coolest creature, but again, that was like the hybrid.
Yeah.
But the full-on werewolves and like the way they were, represented were better than most. But and if you watch some of the behind the scenes with Underworld with like the makeup and the effects that they did do, they did try to do practical effects with a lot of the actors, but it did not always seamlessly work with the CGI. So again, I mean, it's gotten a lot better, but I do think that that's probably the tension. Like, do we do this more animated or more practical, and what's the best way?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'll totally see this. This looks like fun,
Oh,
and
for sure.
yeah.
We'll put
Um,
this into our werewolf queue, which is lengthy at this point, in a way. But so werewolves, that's the movie Werewolves in theaters December 6th. And once it is on streaming, we will have a natter about it, no doubt. And then the next one is called Apocalypse Z, a trailer for this film, which is coming to Amazon Prime, I believe,
mhm.
and is based on a Spanish novel series. Had you ever heard of this before you saw this?
I had not, and even sort of in the opening scene of the trailer, it felt a little Black Rain.
Oh
So
yeah, Summer.
sorry, Black Summer.
Black Rain, isn't that a Kurt Russell
Black Rain
movie
is
about
like a
cops?
Kurt Russell movie. Sorry, totally wrong. Black Summer. It
Yeah.
gave me Black Summer vibes going on, and then also there's some scenes that definitely have a bit of a Train to Busan feel. So I feel like they're kind of taking really good parts from all of these things,
Oh
and
yeah.
but it looks pretty good.
I definitely was feeling this trailer. Like this looks I kind of wish it was I'll watch it in Spanish, I think, when I watch it. I don't like the dub necessarily. So I'm ex but I think that you're right. They were showing elements very Black Summer, the very first couple sequences of the trailer. And then it just kind of switches around into like society seems to still be kind of functioning, which is not very Black Summer, right? So in the trailer anyway, we don't know what the story is actually going to be. At least I haven't read the book, but very exciting looking. Did you see a release on the end of the trailer?
I didn't. No, wait, October 31st. So I think they're releasing it on Halloween.
Holy smokes. So this will be the first book or part of the first book story being told here for Apocalypse Z, the beginning of the end, October 31st. My gosh, our cup runneth over.
Yep. It's exciting though. I like this time of year.
Hmm.
Um, so
All right.
anyway,
Yeah,
that's
that's our trailers. And then we get into a couple of other updates, such as Bloody Disgusting and a lot of other outlets reported on the first image released from Queens of the Dead, which is the upcoming Tina Romero film. She is, of course, the daughter of the late George Romero, the grandpappy of the genre that we love so much. And so this is, I think the elevator pitch is zombie apocalypse breaks out during a drag show.
yes, that
And
is the premise.
yeah, and the photo the seems to indicate that that is what's happening. Also, this is a bit of a report out on the cast, which we've talked about a little bit. The one person in this cast who I feel is well, there's a few, but Katie O'Brien is kind of I don't know if she's headlining or the leader of the cast, but I'm very excited to see her in this. She's been kind of doing more and more lately. She was in Andor. She was in a movie with Kristen Stewart about like uh, kind of a Thelma and Louise sort of thing. I don't know. I didn't see it. And she is the reason I'm bringing her up is because she's kind of really muscular. And if I before I knew the casting announcement for the role of Abby in Last of Us season two, she was like my dream cast for that character who you haven't met yet, HA.
Nope.
So I will stop talking about it. But for anybody who listening who is familiar with the Last of Us Part Two, Katie O'Brien for me was like she embodied the physicality of that character. They've gone with a different person. I'm sure she's going to be great, but I just wanted to kind of mention that. But yeah, other people in this cast: Katie O'Brien, Margaret Cho, Bridget
Hmm.
Lundy Payne, and Cheyenne Jackson, along with many others. This also does not yet have a release date. Stay tuned
No,
for
I don't.
U.S. release information. Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing yet.
they've been teasing that out, so we'll have to see what happens.
It looks like it's going to be a laugh riot with zombies.
And then I know you wanted to talk a little bit about your fun gamer weekend. So what happened?
Yeah, so I was in Wisconsin last week, which is why we didn't have a podcast. I was at a convention called Gamehole Con, not my chosen name for a convention, but it was a lot of fun. Me and 6,500 of my closest friends playing tabletop role-playing games. And one of the games that I got to play was the Walking Dead role-playing game, which I had kickstarted and bought, and I never got to play it because I couldn't find anybody to play it with me. But
Sad.
going to this convention, I got to play with a professional DM who's played it a bunch of times, and then it was a table full of other people who'd never played it before. But what a great time we had. Everybody, all but one of the people at the table was basically a huge fan of the show. And so there was a lot of like, memeing and references being dropped. We basically fought against some wolves and then we cleared a town and we all died and it was fantastic. 10 out of 10 would die again in the Walking Dead RPG. And I just wanted to share that. It was a great time.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was cool. And then the final piece of news is that Zombieverse, the Korean reality show about the zombie apocalypse, is coming back for a season two. You can watch it on Netflix, I think, November 19th, like coming right up. I never finished season one. I think I got like halfway through. And apparently some of the characters from the first season are coming back, but then there's a whole new bunch of characters who will be put through a variety of strange tasks, no doubt. I don't know.
Well,
Did you enjoy it enough to watch a second season or get
yeah,
through the
I would
first?
do it. I would do it. Even just from like a logistical filming piece, I think that's kind of fun. And I did think that there were a lot of really great moments. So it was a little bit, it feels a little reality TV, but I thought that that was entertaining enough that I'd watch a second season of that. Um, yeah, so um, we'll keep an eye out for that, I suppose.
Yeah,
Um, add it to our very long queue, which I'm very happy to say is very long right now because uh,
lovely.
while there's a little bit of a dearth of content, and now it seems like there's an embarrassment of riches. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will just add real quickly. The movie on Netflix that says the Filipino movie Outside is apparently getting quite good reviews. So,
Oh, all right.
hopefully, people will notice that Netflix, especially, will be like, oh, yeah, the zombie stuff, like Black Summer, it's good. People like it. And so, I don't know, we have to do our part and make sure we watch it 8 times, HA.
Yep, most definitely. Um, and speaking of things we have watched 8 times, not really. We are going to talk about Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, Episode 3. And
L'invisible.
yep,
I have watched this more than once, but not 8 times, I will
I
admit.
know I have watched it more than once as well.
This
And
episode was directed by Michael Slovis and written by Lisa Zverling. And yeah, so we start in France,
yep, in
as
flashback, right?
as you might expect that we're in France. In a flashback. Yes, back to the early days. And well, honestly, this starts with a scene of the Mona Lisa in a very crowded viewing gallery. You've been to the Louvre? I think you've seen the Mona Lisa. Was it like
Oh,
this
yeah,
for
a
you?
few times. I've done this is, an experience, and I will say they were definitely filming in the Louvre. So I do know that they got permission to do that, and so this was not a mock-up. And this is with Jeanette, and then we see another familiar face. We see Sabine, I think, is
Yep.
her right hand woman. Um, they are both working as janitors at the Louvre. I will say, I don't know that I've ever seen janitors standing by at the Louvre in this way or being commanded about. Generally, there's just a lot of security around the Mona Lisa because people are crazy and doing like selfies and things like that. And there's like the other thing, which I couldn't, I would have to rewatch it again, but there's like different you can't get all that close to the painting because they I think they're worried, especially with recent events. There's been people that have been throwing soup and stuff at paintings. So I think they have a pretty specific setback so that you can't move past like a certain point to be able to get close to it. And they have security guards all around.
When I
But
saw it, it was a long time ago. It was behind a sheet of plexiglass or
oh, it still
something.
is. Yep, it still
Yeah,
is.
and
It's
it was even like they would turn the lights off if anybody used flash photography on it. They would like make it darker. Um,
Nobody was
so
really, shockingly, people weren't doing that, but there was definitely a ton of selfie action going on. And you have to go really early to be able to see it, or maybe late in the day without like the massive crowds, because there is a point where the whole room fills up and you just can't even really move.
yeah.
I'm very fortunate that we timed it pretty well the last couple of times, and so we're able to see it. But yeah, this is pretty on point. But I was just thinking, wow, how much? How expensive and what kind of rules must they have to be able to film in there, right?
I
Um,
mean, you feel like it was the room that was the Mona Lisa that they were
I
filming.
think so. If it wasn't, maybe it was mock-up. That's totally possible.
I would agree that they definitely filmed the exterior of the Louvre, the glass
It looked
pyramid.
like even when she's walking around, that looks like the Louvre to me. But
Oh, it could be.
and I think they had said that they were filming in there at one point.
Hmm.
There's definitely some interior shots that were certainly not because they have to make it all look junky and stuff. So that looked like a set to me. But I feel like there were some shots where they're walking around where it is the Louvre. But I'd have to look more into it. It just makes me excited to think that they got to do that. So, very cool building.
Yeah.
But
These
yeah.
scenes serve to show Marion Genet before she was the leader of Maison Mère and the Pouvoir des Vivants. And she is kind of an apathetic janitor. Like, I don't know, like what else to describe her character as. She's looking at all these idiots who are looking at the paintings and she's like, she doesn't get the art. And her friend Sabine or coworker seems to have more of a leadership bone in her body than
Uh,
Janae does. She's
yeah,
like, don't let her talk to you that way. Are you coming to the union meeting? We have to do a national strike. And Janae is kind of like blowing it off. So it's kind of an interesting place for her to start from.
yeah, she's definitely not she's apathetic. I think that's the best way and seems like just kind of uninterested in what's going on and they're organizing and Sabine's really the one that's kind of pushing this movement along because they're not being treated well. And we see like a moment of this where Janae is told to clean up a mess and it's like they're all the workers are going to go on strike for better pay or whatever it is. And it is Sabine organizing everybody, and Janae is actually is saying, "What good does this do?" and being in like just kind of honestly like kind of like a little bit of like a sulky teenager.
Yeah.
Um, definitely not all in on this, and certainly not in for some kind of like organized group effort. So this is kind of interesting to see her in the setting. And it's also, have we seen Sabine? This is the first time we have seen Sabine and Janae in a flashback, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Not seen Janae
we
in a
saw
flashback.
Isabel as and Quinn in a flashback in the first season, and this is the
Yeah.
first time we've seen Janae, and now she has bangs. Here's the this show's Achilles heel. This entire series Achilles
Yeah.
heel is these flashbacks, which I love and I want to see, but it's 13 plus years ago, and they don't look any different except for Sabine. No, it looks exactly the same, and
Right.
Janae just has bangs. Like she looks exactly the
Um,
same as she does in the future.
Sabine's hair is maybe a little like more styled or something, and she's wearing makeup. I think that's about the only thing that's different, but they both look totally the same.
Yeah.
So, um, there's some there's some things that happen in this particular scene because this is really on the eve of when everything falls apart. So Louvre gets locked down. There's like a whole alarm, and Janae's trying to basically get out to see her husband who has come looking for her, but he can't get through the security. And this is definitely like at least the Louvre courtyard. I don't know if they actually have filmed through the pyramid, which would be very cool, or that particular entrance.
It sure looked like it.
It looked
I would
like
be
it.
I'd be willing to believe that they had access to this.
Definitely, it definitely looked like it. It was cool to see the courtyard and how they did all this because they have,
Tons of extras, so
oh
many
yeah,
extras.
totally, totally all coming in. That was very cool. But there's like this piece of me, as psyched as I was to see it, there's a bunch of police and armed guards or like
Yeah.
army people there with weapons. And there doesn't, at least to me, it didn't feel like there was an overwhelming number of walkers, and they were just not doing anything, not even trying to like do anything to stop them. There, you hear like weird little announcements, like it's, everybody go and stay inside, and that's what Janae's husband told her is that he was told to go home, but he wants to come and get her. But even when this happens, it just feels a little bit, I don't want to say contrived, but it feels like avoidable. So he goes to meet her while she's inside the pyramid. She's watching and she looks behind him but doesn't do anything and he gets like torn apart.
Yeah,
Like doesn't
I think
feel
this is the show telling us that they have no idea what's going on. Nobody's heard about zombies, obviously. The police don't know what's going on. They're trying to like calm down a crowd who are panicked. And yeah, like nothing, not like this is the frustrating part about the first day of the zombie apocalypse is nobody knows what to do and they're just like, "Oh, there's a weird guy walking up behind you, husband." And I think he looks over his shoulder. He sees the guy too. And he's like, "Oh, but honey, let's put our hands on the glass together." And then he just gets
yeah,
eaten.
nor this weird dude behind me that looks like terrifying. And I'm just gonna like, come on, let's be, even if you, okay, even if you think that this person maybe is not like, maybe this person is having like an incident, like a mental health incident, whatever, you're still not going to stand there while they walk up to you and do whatever they're going to do. I think the human instinct is to get away from that person. You're not going to do what he did. And that is the part that I hate about the show. There's such a way that they could, um, could have orchestrated this to make it so much better.
Yeah, it would have
Did
taken
not
more
feel
time, and they only had, I think, a few minutes to get this part of the story across.
I get it, but there's still like this felt like he just waited to be a snack. And
Yeah,
it was just like and look, definitely traumatizing. She saw him be torn apart. He was torn apart, blood is thrown on the pyramid. Like at least it didn't get on any of the artwork. But she's stuck in the Louvre with some of the workers and I guess the tourists, and they kind of show the varying groups of people that are stuck in there.
yeah,
Um,
and they also show her just wandering around the empty museum in the dark. Um,
by the way, if you
it's a
haven't,
little funny that they managed to like close it, like because the door is open in that same scene where her husband gets eaten. Maybe they didn't show anybody closing that door or like locking them in, but the pyramid had an open area, so I don't know. It's easy enough to believe that they would have shut the door and then just stayed in there, but that's apparently what they did.
well, and then I have to say, even though it's a zombie apocalypse, the ability to walk around the Louvre with no, like, very few people seems like heaven to me, no matter what the situation.
Yeah, but what's ironic is that she doesn't care about any of that stuff.
I know, but she learns to appreciate it. So there,
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad that they've come back to this, that her whole weird thing with art from last season, where she was surprised that Quinn wanted art instead of drugs or booze. And she called, all impressionists degenerates. She has this whole weird relationship with art for sure.
yeah.
And they are doing some work to show us why, I guess, in this season. She's already talked about how her mother was a server or a waitress this season, and now we know that when she worked at the museum, it was in a way that was like unappreciative of what was there. But anyway, I'm just glad that they're like continuing to stay consistent with her story arc as our big bad. Um, so then we were looking at the Mona Lisa, I feel like, and then we realized that we're not in the Louvre anymore. We're actually, from Carol's perspective, looking at it on the wall of Genet's headquarters, the Maison Mère, the mother house. And it's just in the cafeteria. It's kind of like putting it in the bathroom or something. I feel like it's not a very distinguished place to put the Mona Lisa.
Mm-mm.
Big cafeteria scene, and Carol's just staring at it, and who walks up next to her but Marion Genet, and she's like, "What do you think?" in French. And I thought Carol's response, it's kind of typically American. It's like, what? Or, what did you say? I don't know. It's
Mhm.
she's not very culturally sensitive. Or like she can't hide the fact that she doesn't speak French, I guess, but
Right,
she doesn't even. And then Marion just effortlessly switches to English.
right. As one normally does with Americans in Paris. So yeah, Carol is absolutely playing that stereotype up. But we've seen Carol kind of play this game. She's trying to figure out who's who, what their weaknesses are. Um, Definitely does not um like we have seen her do this in multiple settings at the just where she is kind of testing the waters, building trust, gathering information, and she definitely tries to make herself seem not threatening, and as an ally. And it feels like she is semi doing this successfully in this moment with
Because
Janae.
Janae's as good a liar as Carol is. Carol is just lying through her face, right? She's like, "Oh, I came here from the east," which is like, the opposite direction from which she came. And I was came here as a tourist 13 years ago and never learned a word of French, apparently. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah.
I
And
think
Janae,
he,
like a little side eye, but I think that's the interesting thing is that both of them have a healthy amount of skepticism and cynicism. So it is a little bit like watching a game of chess between the two of them.
yeah. And
Um,
then there's a real power chess move when one of the guerriers causes a scene and says this food doesn't taste good, and he throws it on the floor and goes, "Oops." And Marion stands up for the server and says, food is precious, so eat it off the floor. And the guy just gets down and starts doing it. And she's like, Bon appetit, everybody. Have a good dinner. I don't like bullies. Nice to meet you, Carol. Peace out.
Mhm.
It's not a subtle flex. It's a very overt flex. And she clearly has this kind of control and power that I
Right,
am
but
not
yes,
100% sure the show ever really convinces us of how she got it.
well, so she's got this, but if she really did, there's no way that guy would have said that.
Because he
So
knows she's standing there, right? Or maybe he doesn't, but
why would you do it in front? No, he saw her, and it just feels again like a little bit of a contrived moment, but
mm,
cool, cool, we'll deal with that. And you know, there's that, and Carol definitely sees this, takes it in, and is making some drawing some conclusions, and
yeah.
so that's kind of um, interesting. And then we also have some scenes at the nest, which is things are not going well for any of the people that we really know. We've got Sylvie, who is, she knows that Laurent is there. She is trying to find him and gets, you know, waylaid by Lo Sang, and she knows that they're going to do something to him. And
I'm sorry. I feel like this was a terrible way to send Sylvie off the show.
yeah, this is
She
horrible. It was very upsetting. And
she was underdeveloped, but God, there was a lot more potential there for her than she like. So she gets away from her guard after praying, and then she immediately goes into stupid mode and she starts yelling Laurent, Laurent, and they're gonna kill him. They're gonna kill Laurent. And I mean, maybe she's not smart. I don't know that they've ever shown us that Sylvie's particularly intelligent. She was a singer. She was a nice little nun. She was one of the only nuns who survived the battle with the Guerriers the first season. And then
but
she
now she
felt,
doesn't have to find out that Emil died, so that's all
I
good,
guess that's true. She doesn't know. Wow,
right?
she dies thinking that she might still have a boyfriend out there somewhere. Um, but like the fact that she gets chased up onto this wall, the crenellation, the barrier is up to her hips. Like they show us that how high it comes up to her, and then she's got guards on either side. I just found this to be extremely unrealistic, as well as just a bad way to get rid of her character. The
Agree.
fact that she flips up and over this wall suddenly, and flies down and dies on the ground, and Lo Sang is like, "Oh no, she's dead."
Right.
Joel De La Fuente, I kind of love everything he's doing. I wish he wasn't turning into a villain, but I really like the guy playing Lo Sang.
Well, he also talks about that and how he wasn't aware of some of the things, the twists that it was going to take, and that how he was kind of sad
Yeah.
about how
I mean,
villainous.
if he just had the script from season one, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the good guy." It's great. Yeah. But I'm bummed about Sylvie. I don't think that they should have killed her off. I think that
I was
that
hoping for
actress,
a little bit. I was hoping for a little bit more of subterfuge on her part, where she was sort of playing this inside person and help.
yeah,
Like, I thought she was gonna maybe help get Laurent out, or be like, um, and just be sort of this last minute hero. I get why they played it this way, but I also felt like it was a little bit of a. I felt like they gave her a short shrift here.
yeah, it's not
So
good. We've
uh,
also had a scene before this at the Maison Mère of Remy, Carol's little buddy, the English teacher buddy, and Carol witnessing some experiments. So this is where they see the zombie creation thing that they're doing, that the pouvoir actually have like a weird negative sort of thing that they're working on. They shoot a bunch of prisoners and then they inject them with the serum and then they time to see how fast they come back.
yep.
And they that's about what they see before they're chased off. But they're like, damn, this is messed up. But now Carol, I think, has a more complete picture of the scene here, and clearly it's bad. She's in the camp of the bads. Um,
But did you like? I guess part of it was like they watched this and nobody really was worried that they were seeing this, and it feels like maybe they should be. That like it doesn't feel like this should be. Maybe I guess maybe they were being more open about what they were doing here than I thought they were. I thought they were kind of keeping this not like people knew there were experiments going on and things like that, but I didn't think they were necessarily allowing exactly what they're doing to be public knowledge, like
yeah,
because people are going to be sacrificed doing their duty, quote unquote, sacrificing for the cause. And I just thought it was weird that they let like these two people that have just recently joined
yeah.
watch and see what they were doing. So that felt weird to me.
Well, Remy does say something about like knowing that the burning ones were an experiment that got loose, right? He says that. So I think he has that knowledge. There's probably the word on the street is the pouvoirs have been experimenting with zombies. So
Mm.
maybe it's not a closely guarded secret. It probably ought to be. And I think that it probably the fact that it's not that much of a secret causes some problems in the future for the story, but not in this episode. Uh, so we go back to Mont Saint Michel. Issa, Falou, and Daryl are walking around the outside. I just love this set so much. It's such a beautiful place that they're shooting. If anything, if I have like one high point of this whole season, this whole show, it's just how beautiful it is to watch things happening in France, even though there are a lot of bugs, apparently.
Yes.
And Issa is asking, Falou is just like leading Daryl and Isabel, and she's like, "Do you think I'm gonna like Ohio?" Uh, when did we learn that the Commonwealth was in Ohio? I thought it was in West Virginia or something.
Oh, did I? So that was a surprise to me. And of course, like I will just say it, and this is semi-spoilery, but I'm like, oh, they're talking about things that are very happy and
Hmm.
wonderful. Oh, I don't know how this is going to go because like the other shoe is going to drop very soon. It didn't. So I don't know. I kind of feel like Daryl is this character that just isn't allowed to be truly happy. Like we've seen this a few times, with Connie.
I don't want to
Um,
talk about this yet, HA. I'm not ready. I'm not
I'm
ready.
just saying, I'm prepping everybody for the fact that he can't have nice things. And
It
I
does
when
feel cursed.
the minute that she started talking about this, I was like, oh, this is not going to end well. And so it wasn't, let's just say things didn't go as I thought that they would. So we will talk about that a little later. But
Here's a question for you about this episode. Do you think Laurent knows what Lo Sang plans to do with him? In this scene that comes right after the "Do you think I'll like Ohio?" question, as they're climbing over the wall into the Mont Saint Michel, Laurent is in a room, like in a green room. Lo Sang's bringing him tea, which he admits is drugged, although it's valerian root and honey. I don't know how strong that stuff is. It's apparently like a soporific, but Laurent acts like he's taken fentanyl or something later on. They
yeah,
put him in some robes. He says, "What exactly do I do when I'm up there?" And Lo Sang is just like, "Be yourself. People are
Yeah, I
excited
don't
for you to step into this spiritual role. I don't feel like Laurent knows what's about
no,
to happen.
I don't think he knows. I think he thinks he's supposed to like talk or do something that there's some I do not think that he because I don't think that he would agree to that. Certainly not. I definitely think that that wasn't valerian root that Losane put in there. It's clearly something much heavier. And I also don't know. I mean, I guess it's that Laurent has been very trusting of the adults around him. His trust with Lausanne is similar. Like perhaps it's there because Issa and the other priest who was his
Père
mentor,
Jean.
Daryl, um, said that it was okay to trust him. I don't know, but Laurent seems to have gotten some and brings up Daryl all the time and does have some survival skills from Daryl. So I don't know that he would have. I was really hoping to see him like fake drinking it, honestly. But he is a kid and you can't ask too much of him. But no, he definitely does not know what is going to happen here. And look, all along he's been treated kind of like the Messiah. They treat him well, they t treat him with special care. So why would he think there was anything else but more of that happening? Maybe he thought it was just like us, and he's been living with like religious people and priests. So maybe he just thought it was something like a mass or something like that.
If this
Uh,
was always on the cards, if this was always the end game for Lo Sang and the Nest people, I kind of would hope that Daryl, when he was there living his like happy family life for a couple weeks at least, would have
Mhm.
picked up on it, would have
Yeah, I
warned
kind of
Laurent, would have gotten him a little more leery.
I feel like you're right, and I feel like they're not exactly coy about it. Like I don't know the zealousness, zealousness,
The zeal.
zeal with which some of these followers feel this about Laurent and what he's going to be, I don't know that they'd be able to keep that under wraps. They're not exactly like super secret. It feels like there's other things happening. But you also feel like maybe there would have been a point where Daryl was like, well, what is the end game with Laurent, right?
Yeah.
Like you would think he would have because there's enough interest and weirdness surrounding Laurent that I feel like that would have set off Daryl's alarm bells.
You
And I
you
do
would
think,
hope, yeah. He's
and so
he's
that
he doesn't
feels,
trust people. Like he doesn't walk around trusting people. So why would he trust the nesters?
no, and he's especially skeptical of like this kind of like honestly culty
Hmm.
behavior and belief system. He's always been saying that this is kind of weird that they're treating Laurent like this, that he's just a kid. And so I do think that is odd that he has been so kind of reticent here. But maybe he's also torn and he's got his own stuff on his mind. He's still thinking about going back home, but feels bad because honestly, he really does like feel like Laurent and Issa are important people and family to him now. So I think that he's conflicted because honestly, he does want them to come with him and he doesn't think they'll come. And so then the choice is, oh, do I stay and kind of buy into this weird thing that they're doing? So I do think he's having his own struggles and maybe that
Sure.
makes him little less focused, but
That's
I don't.
believable. That's a believable excuse for Daryl not to have been on his guard. Because so then the ceremony is happening and Lo Sang is talking his talk. Laurent is standing there with his eyes half closed, like he's high as hell. And then they lead out this hooded zombie, which great acting by the woman playing Sylvie. She looks
Yeah.
really twisty under that robe. They unmask her, and there's a gasp, right? The crowd backtracks. Like maybe they weren't expecting this either, which is also potentially an excuse for why Daryl wouldn't have picked up on it. It's really just the inner circle who know that this was the plan. But just a gasp and a step back does not, to me, it's like, okay, yeah, they have faith, but is this part of their religion? Like, yeah, we will let occasionally people get bitten by zombies.
Right.
Or,
And I also think that these people are so enamored with Laurent, if they aren't part of this inner circle, they are going to react badly to this plan.
hmm,
I don't, unless, so that's the part that I'm having a hard time with. Maybe it was just the inner circle. In that case, it makes a little bit more sense. But I do feel like these people adore him. And if they really think that this is what's going to happen to him, and they are just surprised. Like if they're surprised by this, they're not going to let it happen, or they're going to rebel against whatever is going to happen because they do kind of idolize him. So then, so
Yeah.
that those are the things that I was trying to like get over in my head is that I just think they would not have reacted well to this. And if Sylvie was a surprise to them, so was the idea that Laurent was going to get bitten. Um, unless they actually really think that this is um, this is like his whole journey and that this is what the prophecy is, which they keep referencing.
Maybe.
And yeah, and then that's the other part. There's a couple of moments where they make this comment that Issa made up this story or that it's not true that he can die. Um, like, so what does that mean that she made up the story? No, I mean, he was born the way he was born, so but he doesn't have immunity, right? So,
Not that anybody has seen.
oh,
He's certainly no Ellie. Ellie?
right.
Yeah, right, from Last of Us. He doesn't have a bite mark. So there's no actual proof that has immunity, but they're just this is where their silly faith thing comes into it.
Mhm.
But Daryl shows it's a little, there's a lot of like showing up right at the right moment here. Daryl and Isabel and Falou. Falou and Isabel are down in the crowd. Daryl's up on the stairs and he puts an arrow in Sylvie's head and then kills a guard. And in the chaos, Isabel and Falou take Laurent and they're like running through the streets of Mont Saint Michel. Then we go on like kind of a journey here where Daryl kills 13, a
Yep.
total of 13 men, who are all like, the soldiers of the nest. 14, sorry. He kills 14 guys, while Falou and Laurent manage to escape, but Isabel has to like hide in the closet and we never see her get caught, but eventually she apparently is captured also.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, it's great fight choreography. It's great to see Daryl kicking ass, but I just feel bad for the Nest people. It doesn't ever seem like they have that many of themselves, and he kills 14 of them just with his hands.
Yeah. And again, I do feel like some of the Nest people would be torn or conflicted about what's happening and would question the the overall plan to have Laurent be bitten.
Maybe.
So, but I guess not. And there's this whole tension. And I will say that there's when Daryl and Issa and Falou and Laurent are kind of making their plan, and Falou and Laurent go off to the hiding place. The hiding place apparently he knows that Daryl and he know about, which Daryl has to prompt him on. And that was kind of funny. Because he's just like, oh, by the rocks or something weird like that.
Hmm.
Um, and then, I do think that this made sense. And Daryl's like, look, wait for a certain amount of time and then get going. Because, if we can't get out, you've got to kind of get the let out and get away and not be discovered. And I thought that that was a smart thing to do. It was disappointing that he and Issa get caught to be interrogated. Um, and this is the point where I feel like Lausanne really turns a corner, because his absolute belief and focus, like, and also desperation that he needs to find Laurent and basically have him be bitten would probably make anybody pause. But I feel like they're very deliberately drawing parallels between him and Madame Genet and their commitment or their absolute belief that they're doing right, um, and cannot see that this quest is actually incredibly destructive and evil. I mean, to me, that's kind of the definition of evil when you believe that you are absolutely right and cannot see that this is cuckoo bananas.
It is
So,
cuckoo bananas. There's a nice line here a little later after Daryl's been tortured and Losang is trying to talk to him a little bit more, and Daryl's just like, "What if you're wrong?" And Losang just says, "Well, then it wouldn't be worth going on." So he's basically saying, "Look, either I'm right and we're going to be okay, or I'm wrong and I'm just going to kill myself because I can't live in this world without this
yeah, but
possibility."
But before you do that, you're willing to kill this kid
Yeah.
and you're willing to take that risk. And that's the part that I feel is like the true evil of this.
Yeah.
And like he is like hooked all of his hopes and all these people's hopes onto this thing, which is, sometimes you can see Madame Genet's um, point, which is this insane belief in this religion is like a is dangerous, yet hers is also dangerous in a different way.
Yeah, it's so funny for her to be like, "Oh yeah, religion is the opiate of the masses,
Well,
and it's
yeah,
not about
she's
hope, it's
doing
about control." But then at the end of this episode, she's like telling a bunch of quote unquote volunteers that they're gonna go and, well, I don't think they actually know what they're in for, but she's basically telling them that they're going to help, take the Mont Saint-Michel from the Nesters.
Mm.
Like she has also fanatical followers. When she's not leading through religion, she's leading through, I'm not sure. Again, I don't think that her character is 100, or her faction is 100% baked. They have some cool elements, but to me it just doesn't tie together that she could still have this level of control and power. But whatever, it's fine. We've also had back at the Maison Mère, and Carol sneaks into like the prisoners' quarters with the kitchen crew and offers people stew and says the word stew in a French accent.
Yep. Um,
Bonjour, stew.
yeah,
And then
it's
she's like, I'm looking for an American. I'm looking for an American. Everybody
and
in here knows who she's looking for.
but also this is freaking dangerous what she's doing.
Oh, yeah.
You be a little bit more subtle. She tells everybody she's looking for him, so much so that she even comes upon our favorite former baddie, semi-baddie, conflicted baddie.
He's a
I
hero
don't
now. He's a good guy now. I'm
yeah.
convinced. Although
So
he's not looking so good. Honestly, if I would say Kudron has like hours to live in this
yeah,
interaction
Godot
that they have.
in a very bad way. And he does eventually reveal again, not so
So
subtly.
fast he reveals this.
She's like, and not only that, but she tells him that Daryl's her brother and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
And
she lies again, but he's been withstanding torture for weeks.
okay, so he has been, and he still has this little watch with San Michel on there, and like it's so obvious, and like that the fact that they haven't figured out something is weird. And so anyway, he reveals this to her, and so she comes up as always with a plan to escape. Um, and this is again a fatal flaw. Like she's been pretty tight with Remy, I think the guy that she came in with
Yeah.
initially, the one who had been separated from his husband by Madame
Yeah,
Genet.
once she finds out from Kodron where Daryl is, the next
How
scene
did
is
you
of her
know?
like hugging Remy, holding on to him. Well, because Kodron only says it's an island fortress in Normandy. He doesn't say where, and she might not know because Carol might not have had an opportunity to go to France before. So it's kind of understandable. But so she goes to Remy to be like, "Oh, what does he mean by an island fortress in Normandy?" And Remy's like, "Well, there's only one, so it's Mont
Yeah,
Saint-Michel."
but still, I think Carol would be a little bit more circumspect, even in sharing these things with Remy,
She just
because
seems so close with him. Like she's holding on to him and hugging him and stuff. I didn't
he
feel like,
is
yeah.
way too close. And okay, this is my other thing about this is why this bothers me. She knows that Remy is so worried about his husband. She knows that people who have something to lose like that or something
Yeah.
to bargain with information
Yeah.
is like currency. And so, and that is actually something that I think Janae says to her, something like that.
I don't
And
get why so he sells her out, he dimes her out, she gets caught. Like, okay, fine. Like you said, it's kind of predictable. What I don't wouldn't predict here is that Remy's request to Genet is that he and Julian, his husband, are reunited. And then she's like, Sabine will drop you off somewhere in Paris. But they volunteered to come into the Maison Mère. So
yep.
like because it was stable, like so they wouldn't have to just keep moving all the time because Julian's lungs are bad, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm curious why that would, I mean, maybe they'll never come back on the show, and so that's the end, and we don't have to care. But I thought like they wanted the stability of living at the Maison Mère for the access to
Well,
food
I
and
think
warm beds.
I think initially they did, but given what happened to them and the fact that they have marked Julian as like a invalid or as a tax on resources versus somebody that like it's only a matter of time before they will do it again. And also Remy has
Hmm.
just shown that he's willing to do anything or betray. uh, allies, and so I don't think that they really want him in
Fair
there
enough.
necessarily. So I think that's probably why, but maybe they'll pop up later and he can redeem himself, but I feel maybe not. I don't think he really is going to want to be reunited with Carol because, I mean, I think she gets it, but we know
Yeah.
Carol. We
He's
know
like
Carol.
you would do the same thing for your Daryl, right? And she doesn't respond. I don't know. I don't know that she would kill Remy the next time she sees him, but maybe.
She would do something. Let's just put it that way.
Um,
Um,
there's an interesting scene here between Genet and Carol once Remy and Julianne leave, and Marion is like talking about their vineyard and yada yada. And she's like, "Okay, enough with the malarkey. Tell me the real story. Why are you here? What are you doing?" And Carol tells like, three truths and a lie, sort of. She's like, I conned an innocent man to fly me to France. He was almost turned into a sperm donor. I was almost killed by insane environmentalists. And Daryl, I want to kill him, which I thought was kind of awesome. They're doing so much with her ability to fabricate um this whole season, maybe just the whole show forever. She's been good at lying, whether it was pretending to be weaker than she was or whatever. I'm just glad that they're doing a lot of this, and it feels like Janae believes her again, but Janae's wily.
Yep. Well, I mean, she believes her, she's like, I'll give you what you want and we can go and I'll let you kill Daryl. And so they know the location of the nest.
Yep.
Um, they show a very like and if in case you didn't get that, they show the watch again, so you know that they know.
Yeah.
And they get ready to go and to storm the nest. They have a bunch of people, and they all come like right out to like in front of San Michel. Everybody's like, she's with a group of quote unquote volunteers, so you know something nefarious is at hand. And the plan is that they're going to turn them all. And Janae starts like a very creepy speech about how they're all going to serve the cause and that they thank you for your sacrifice. And then, of course, Carol's like, oh, great, what's going to happen? And they want to turn them into the super zombies, super walkers. And
Yeah. Carol is like, "Are you going to turn them?" And Janae says, "Yeah, and so are you." And then she gets put in with the herd of people. She's standing next to the guy who had to eat the stew off the floor, which
oh,
is how
that's
we
right.
know that he's in the doghouse. He didn't just
So,
eating stew
so
off the floor was not enough of a punishment for him.
dun, 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 Carol's in dire straits. And we have this sort of like this, I don't want to say like a cliffhanger, but it is.
Yeah.
And
Because we don't know what's going to happen next, and we don't know who knows what in this crowd of people that she because Janae has been like eagerly looking into some of their eyes, and they're making like salute signs, and they're like looking pretty psyched to be there. It's confusing. But who's not psyched to be there is Isabel is brought into the prison. Daryl is like, oh no, ah. Uh, they have some really touching moments talking about, Daryl's like, I came here, I didn't care about anybody or anything. I just wanted to go home, and now I found some people. And she says, I love you in French, which is very
yeah,
nice. He doesn't say it back, but he just says de paysan, which is the one word in French that he has learned in his time
I
here.
guess the question is, does he really know what she's saying?
Je t'aime,
Um,
yeah. I don't know. They're holding hands. Maybe the language
yeah,
of
it's like you're saying something pretty in French to me. I don't know.
the
Um,
universal language. They also talk about Tinkerbells.
yep, they talk about fireflies and things like that. And we do see that Issa like pulls up this drain and is kind of like working that through. It
Yeah.
looks like I thought she was gonna kind of get out of the handcuffs or something or the chains, but no.
Maybe she will. But yeah, Lose, she has just been brought in. They've had that one conversation about I used to care about nothing. Now I do care about things and what are fireflies. Uh, and then Losang comes in again and he's like, Issa, we need to talk. And he takes her away for more interrogation. I'm like, she just came back from interrogation. She's
Right,
all
right.
banged up. Is that so? I was like, what is okay, sure, man. Sure, showrunners. I'm sure that there's a good reason for why she's being dragged back and forth from interrogation, but like this one is for real this time. Sabine is expressing concern that this plan was rushed to Janae. Janae's like, just take care of it, get it done. And Losang is trying to get Isabel to pray with him. Daryl's getting hit in the face. And I think that that's kind of where the episode ends. It's like it's bad on all fronts. Daryl's still chained up. Isabel is being taken away. Carol is in the herd of volunteers for whatever this attack on Mont Saint Michel. And there's no alarm being raised inside Mont Saint Michel, even though these trucks all have headlights. And one would expect that they are quite apparent.
And they would have had lookouts, right?
I mean, they certainly did when they were trying to sneak Laurent out of the fortress, but they have 14 fewer guards. So, so maybe they don't have as many people with binoculars as they used to. It's a fun episode. It's we were a little worried, I think, after episode 2 that Carol was going to fall into Genet's camp like more of a willing participant, but they show her learning about it and then kind of getting caught while trying to escape. So I was glad that they went that way instead of like, oh, Carol's just going to become a stooge for the
Right.
baddies. I mean, not that we would ever really
I
expect that.
felt like that was, sleight of hand,
Yeah,
because, you know, we know that Carol's too smart for that. So,
yeah.
um, but anyway, I'm excited to see the next episode. I've been really enjoying seeing them film in these incredible places, and it seems like they are having a really good time doing so, and they keep talking about it. So I have to say, location wise, the strings that they had to pull to do this seem pretty incredible and like a logistical nightmare, but I'm glad they did because I do think that this definitely added to the whole atmosphere of the show.
I mean,
Um,
Mont Saint Michel and the Louvre in one episode
no,
is kind of mind blowing, right?
kind
These
of
are
crazy.
iconic locations in France that like you'll hear from some of the cast members, the French cast members, they're like, I've never been here before.
I know.
So it's yeah, this is a lot of fun. I think that we do have some gripes about certain elements of the story, but they are basically secondary to the good times that we're still having on the show.
Yeah. So, we will continue with episode 4 next time, but let us know what you think about this and what you think about what's going on with this season. Love to hear from you if you want to drop us a line at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com.
And
And
reanimated.podbean.com is where you can find all of our episodes.
so anyway, thanks so much for listening. Until next time, ciao.
Adios.